Principal Secretary Omono, KCB represented by the Director Treasury, Peter Njuguna, PIA Chair, the Board of PIA, members of PIA, the PIA General Manager and the staff, sectors in terms of economic and technical regulation. The Principal Secretary, State Department for Internal Security and National Administration, Dr. Omono, KCB represented by the Director Treasury, Peter Njuguna, PIA Chair, the Board of PIA, members of PIA, the PIA General Manager and the staff, and members of the fourth estate. Good morning. I'm here representing the Director General, Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority. We are charged with regulating the energy and petroleum sectors in terms of economic and technical regulation. And we are the ones who license all the downstream activities, mid and downstream activities, including the upstream activities now. And today, of course, we are here to discuss the aspect of combating illicit trade in the petroleum sector. I know it has been a thorn in the flesh, and there's been hue and cry. Sometimes all blames pointed to us as a regulator. I may not say that we've done our best, but we are trying so hard to do our best. And we promise you that from what has happened 2 months ago, I think that was on 1st of February at Muradi, I think we lost about 13 lives. Those are not the official statistics, but the numbers are almost there. And we had almost 300 injuries. It is something that has been paining us as a regulator for quite a while. I think personally that night I never slept. I just gotten into bed. I did not even watch the news that there was a breaking news. But I was woken up at 2:25 a.m. that is a huge fire. And the person who called me was my boss, and he told me these are illegal sites. And he told me I'm on site. So I asked myself, if my boss is on site and I'm asleep, what will happen? Do I have a job? So I sat in bed like for 5 minutes. My heart was pounding because I wondered what would have gone wrong. It's a long time since we've had such a huge incident. I think the last one I remember was Sachawan, when we lost 100 lives in Sachawan. But when the gravity of this matter settled, and we are still doing investigations, and I think we are assisting the security agencies, we are looking at where the gaps are. And one of the things that we have to do as an industry, I think we have to work together. There's no doubt about it, because you are the ones who import this gas, you are the ones who transport this gas. Our work is to license. Sometimes we may not be everywhere, but I think we need to collaborate and ensure that where there are loopholes, we're able to deal with those loopholes. We are currently reviewing the LPG regulations. I think PIA is a member of that technical committee. There are many issues that have been raised in that technical committee. Key among them are revolving around competition issues. And we've tried as much as possible to remove the issue of competition between players. When you come to that committee, we're requesting that we remove our cap and think as Kenyans, because this industry belongs to us. This industry will outlive us. I'm told companies like Shell came here 100 years ago. I used to work for Total, let me declare, but I have no conflict of interest. Total started in this country in 1955 as COSO East Africa. So these companies and the industry will outlive all of us. So the better we make the industry, the better it will be for our children and great-grandchildren. I'll just touch on a few points of what we've done as a regulator and what we think could be the way forward in terms of combating the current situation that we have. The issue of illicit trade in LPG, that is illegal refilling of LPG cylinders. I think that's the most prevalent malpractice currently. We've tried to license as many people as possible, Back in 2009, we started with 9 companies. When the unified LPG valve was brought in 2009, and when we started the LPG exchange pool, the number of players increased. Today we have about 90 brand owners of LPG cylinders. We think approximately we have about 11 million cylinders in the market. We are still doing a census on it. We have licensed 138 filling plants, up from 9 filling plants that we had that time. And I think the government of the day in 2009 had a very noble idea of increasing access. However, that increase in access came with its own problems, and these are the problems that we are trying to solve today. Under the LPG regulations of 2019, we were able to remove the LPG exchange pool. What we've allowed is just what we call a mutual exchange between parties, as long as those parties will come and register that exchange process with us through documentation. They also need to be cleared by the competition authority. So far, we've not registered any exchange. There's been one attempt, but I think they never met the requirements. But we are still working on the industry in the presence of the LPG exchange pool, which in a way also propagated illegal refilling. What can we do so that we can be able to stem this vice? I will not excuse myself. I think as a regulator, I have to lead from the front. There are many areas of weakness we have identified. We try to work with the security agencies to see how best we can do surveillance and enforcement, so that at least, and also we are working with the judiciary to see how we can sensitize the judiciary so that the minimum fines which are prescribed in law, I think if you are caught doing illegal refilling, the minimum fine is 10 million. We've seen a case of somebody going to court, going through the prosecution process, and they were fined $500,000. These are some of the issues that we have to deal with as a country and make sure that all of us are aligned as government. So in terms of EPRA, I think we are currently now embarking on our strategic plan for 2023-2024 to 2027-2028. And key among the things that we'll do in that strategic plan is staffing. I think we've had a problem of staffing. Today we have 7 regional offices. Those regional offices are not properly staffed. If we add Nairobi, we'll have 8 offices. We think that if we increase the capacity of the people in terms of human resource capacity, we'll be able to do a better job. And I think we have support of government, and I believe we'll be able to work on that aspect. The next thing that we are currently doing is a cost of service study in the supply of petroleum products in Kenya. This study was commissioned in January 2024, and it's looking at the entire value chain. I think part of that study will be able to look at the possibility of doing an LPG pricing. I'll be touching on LPG pricing vis-a-vis what will come on in terms of the proposed open tender system for LPG, because I know under the regulations, which are our instruments for regulation, we are looking at reviewing legal notice number 3 of 2023 to include LPG as one of the products that will be imported through the tender system. One of the problems we've had in the LPG sector is that we have variant sources of LPG. It's LPG coming by road borders through Loitoktok and through Namanga. And that is a very porous way of bringing LPG, because most of this LPG is the one that is ending up in some illegal sites or is going to be illegally refilled. So I think there's merit in centralizing the way we import LPG so that we can be able to account for data from the moment the LPG lands to the moment that LPG is sold or exported. We'll be able to identify gaps. Attorney General and Department of Justice, these regulations underwent public participation, so we are just waiting for publishing. So there's the one for petroleum business licensing and logistics facilities. There's a regulation of product quality management. I think this is where we do fuel marking and monitoring. There's a one for petroleum information and statistics, which is a very important regulation because of data verification. I just have to mention that the data verification committee comprising industry and government has not been working well, but we have revamped it, and we will be having our inaugural meeting soon so that we can be able to track these quantities of gas from import to the consumption level. There's a regulation on common user facilities. I think that is key. We have also had that cleared by the AG. And there's the one on road transport. This one we are licensing the road transporters, the tankers, and the drivers. These regulations have been there. We just revamped them and reviewed them in line with the Petroleum Act 2019. So the AG also has 4 regulations which are under review, but we have submitted them. This one on retail facility. This for petrol stations. And key of what PI has mentioned is the one on lubricants. This is a new area that we'll be regulating, although this regulation has been in draft for quite a while, but we are pushing to see whether it will be clear this time. And then we have the minimum operational stocks and the strategic stocks regulations. Now, we have 2 regulations which are under development, and you are all aware about them. I think we had some, maybe you are aware of one. The other one is a very new one, which is currently under drafting. There's a regulation on jetty. I think what remains is just the final stakeholder meeting to agree on the aspect of demurrage, who bears demurrage when a ship delays at Mombasa. Then there's a very new one, which is on bioethanol. And the reason why we come into bioethanol is, one, our Electricity and Renewable Energy Directorate, they will be concerned with the production because it's a renewable form of energy. As petroleum and gas, we'll be concerned about blending, because you know there's a regulation of blending of 10%. We had a regulation in 2010 of blending 10% ethanol and 90% of gasoline. I think that it will be under review. Then we have 3 regulations which are under review. I mentioned the LPG regulations, Legal Notice 100. These are very new regulation, but because of what is happening in the industry, I think we cannot just close our eyes on it. Part of the things we are looking at is the new fields in gas, which, for example, is autogas, gas reticulation. I know this is part of even the national housing program that government is doing. All those housing units must be reticulated. So we want to kind of revamp that reticulation aspect. And then there's the aspect of smart meters. We all know about MGAS, and there are new other players who are also interested. And then we have included a section for LPG for schools. And then we have looked at other small aspects like the entry level into the market. Currently, we require you to have 5,000 cylinders. We are looking at increasing that number so that we can discuss an economic number that will ensure that once you introduce cylinders, you have a float that will enable you to keep refilling your own cylinders. The other one is on quota allocation. I think this is for NOC. That is also under discussion by the industry. And then the importation of petroleum, which is legal notice number 3. This one won't go through a lot of amendments. The only thing we're including is LPG under the schedule, so that LPG can be imported through the OTS. In terms of enforcement, I think I'm finishing. This is my last point. Apologies for the long discussion. Yes, as I explained, we are working with the security agencies to ensure that the sector is well regulated. So far, we have re-evaluated 54 LPG sites out of the 138 we have licensed. These 54 sites were previously audited and found to be high risk or risky. We have a scoring criteria. So these are sites whose HSE score was below 60%. The reopening of these sites is conditional. They must implement the corrective action plans they have been given until they reach the 60% mark. And we will continue monitoring to ensure that these sites are fully compliant. Of course, We have our areas of weakness, and these are the areas we intend to improve on. Data verification for LPG, I think that has not been well done in the past, but we promise that with the current industry committee, we'll be able to give you data that is properly verified by both KRA, ourselves, and the industry. And that data verification committee is now back and working. We want to have stronger collaboration between ourselves and other government agencies. Here we are looking at all security agencies, whether it is DCI, whether it's the administration police. We are looking at other institutions like NEMA. We are looking at KEBS. We are looking at Anti-Counterfeit Authority. We are looking at KRA. I also talked about judiciary. I think if we work together, of the laws we have under different agencies, on our mandates as different government agencies, I think we can be able to clearly bring this menace of illicit trade to a minimal level.